Okay, so today I'm going to study advising senior management on your supplier diversity program. Consult with and advise senior management on developing and integrating strategies into business practices. Communication shows senior management how supply actions support corporate goals, and communicating supplier diversity program initiatives clearly and convincingly shows senior management and internal customers the value proposition and business case for using diverse suppliers. Target communication. So understand how to target communication. Tailoring communication, you need to target the right group to communicate with and tailor the communication to that group. So communication approaches for senior management are different from those from internal customers. Senior management is going to be more concerned about overall goals and is not really going to think in terms of sourcing or supply management. Internal customers, on the other hand, will be more concerned about their own functional goals and less about strategic and really more tactical. Supplier diversity communication plan should include information on updates on the following topics: organization supplier diversity program and strategy, the business case for supplier diversity, customer expectations, supplier diversity laws and regulations that require compliance, performance to goals, update on key projects or initiatives, gaps, and corrective action plan, and key accomplishments. Influence, the degree of supply management's influence in the organization depends on the degree to which executive management perceives supply management as a contributor to the overall success of the organization. So supply management objectives and strategies must align with those of other functions and the overall organization. So supply management strategies have got to be both vertically and horizontally integrated. Methods of communication. You have the regular performance review where you cover key performance indicators relative to expectations. And you have reward and recognition programs to highlight individuals who've made key contributions. You have internal surveys, which I've not used, but could be intriguing. Conducted internally to understand the perceptions of the supplier diversity program and alignment to the business case. You can use an executive dashboard, which will typically have 1 to 3 metrics around each KPI that's of interest to senior management. You can have live presentations, which are conducive to asking questions, discussing new ideas. And then you can also use social media, both internally and externally, to help publicize the diversity initiatives. Budget analysis. So budgets in conjunction with operating forecasts assist the organization in creating an accessible operating plan. When developing a budget for the supplier diversity program, consider the costs associated with meeting program goals, including things like appointing team members, sponsoring diversity organizations, attending conferences, creating internal reporting tools, providing training and mentoring, and marketing the program. Establish effective communication business case. The success of the diversity program will rest on its business case. And you can create a diverse supplier business case. You gotta use data from financial reports and spend analysis. And the business case should describe the reason the organization is implementing a diversity program in the first place. Here's some ISM principles that may help. You can look at those. And here is an ISM article on how to develop a business case for supplier diversity. Just kind of goes through some different steps and talks about how to look at them. Interesting article. So things that need to be in this diverse business case: reasons for the change, Executive sponsorship at this stage is critical. Problem to be avoided or solved, stakeholder engagement, expected outcomes, soft and hard benefits. And if you need a template for a business case, here's one. This comes from some university I got off the net, but it covers pretty much everything you need in a business case in probably more detail than you need, but you can always lighten up. Steps to implement the business case, you got to develop policy. Some of the key practice policy elements are some of the key best practice policy elements include things like an organizational policy, management support, management review, planning. Best practices include things like develop clear definitions, secure adequate funding, establish a program components, policy training, rewards, and sanctions. Process and guidance, clearly defined and documented process. You got to do some training. You got to do communication, both internal and external. Then you got to have measurement, tracking, and reporting. So you got to measure performance, both employee and supplier performance appraisals, evaluation, audits, dedicated resources, responsible requirements for resources to successfully execute the plan, both human as well as funding resources. Program costs, salaries of program personnel, maintenance, documentation, program management, insurance, training, communication, evaluation, audit. Those are all costs you have to factor into your budget. Business benefits and risks. Some benefits may include revenue generation through expanded customer base, especially if you're a consumer business. Consumer businesses, your customer base likes to see supplier diversity programs. Cost reduction generated through supplier programs. More competition could reduce costs, influencing how the community views the organization, which hopefully is in a positive view, and strengthening the organization's industry leadership potential. The strategic supply plan establishes the supply architecture for an organization. The plan ensures the supply-based strategic planning components and the resources required are all aligned with the organization's strategy. Fully developed supplier diversity strategic plan should include the following elements: business case for supplier diversity, goals to measure success, stated scope, process to obtain and report data, alignment to customer expectations, and training and communication. And this here, this is an article that talks about supplier diversity and strategic thinking. A few pages. This is what a strategic supply plan consists of: annual review, strategies, prioritization of resources, etc. Advanced acquisition plan on the end. And the supplier diversity initiative is part of this. Strategic alliances, formal relationship of two or more entities pursuing common goals. So we tend to form alliances with suppliers which already have significant relationships with our organization. And strategic alliances should be formed to achieve specific benefits, such as gaining a competitive edge, obtaining early involvement in product design, technical, informational advantages, reducing supply base, etc. Change management, key component of establishing and updating organization supplier diversity initiatives and program. Should consider the 3 levels of change management: individual change management, understanding how people experience change; organizational, identifying who will need to change as a result of the initiative; and enterprise, understanding how an organization adapts effectively to an ever-changing world. All right, so what is the most effective method of communicating the status of a supplier diversity program to top management. Detailed weekly report. No, it's too often. Regular meetings with senior managers, possibly. Formal quarterly presentation, including goals and results. Sounds better. Regular summary of cost savings. Yeah, I think C looks like the best answer. C it is. Let's do one more here. Which of the following elements is not appropriate to include with a performance to plan report to top management? Ethics, headcount, savings, training. Headcount and training certainly would be. So it leaves us with savings plan and ethics policy. I think so. ISM is all against counting savings. I would say it's probably C. A, ethics policy. Inclusion of an ethics policy might address performance only in certain specific situations. All right, we got some questions to go. Well, no, we got some summary here. So here's some key takeaways. Supplier diversity communication plan should include information on 8 topics. Yeah, we have to go back to the slides to figure out what those are. When developing a budget for the supplier diversity program, you should consider cost associated with meeting the program goals. Supplier diversity strategic plan should consider 6 elements, and I'm not going to go back and figure those. Priority should be given to reviewing government regulations and requirements of customers. Supplier diversity alliances should possess clear understanding of the expectations, open communications, and information exchange. Consider 3 levels of change management when creating a supplier diversity program. All right, let's go find some questions here. SDA-2 questions. All right, go ahead and do these on your own, and we'll go over the answers. How many we got? I think there's like 20 of them. 11, okay. All right, let's go look at some answers here. And we want the practice questions. All right, number one is delta. You would not eliminate all charts and graphs as a rule when talking to senior management. Two is Charlie, because being prepared with knowledge of previous efforts may help in answering questions, but it's less important. You're looking for a not here. Three is Charlie. Analysis of supply market conditions and supplier performance are core responsibilities of supply management. Four is Delta. Senior management is interested in results that most affect financial performance. Five is also Delta. It enhances the organization's image within the community and its minority and female customers through the establishment of active supplier diversity programs. What was wrong with B? B is incorrect because understanding consumer-related businesses and those that sell to them is good, but not all businesses are consumer businesses. Okay. Six is Alpha. Segmenting categories and suppliers allows procurement organization to focus their attention on relationships with the strategic suppliers that matter most. Seven is Charlie. Forecasted based budgeting is part of strategic supply plan. Eight is Bravo. Option A is incorrect. Option B is correct because the executive level support is critical for the success of the program. Nine is Delta, because a shared transportation system is not a benefit of an alliance. 10 is Alpha, because the development of joint processes can benefit both companies greatly in an alliance. And 11 is Bravo, because the tailoring of the supplier diversity message to the company's overall organizational objectives and goals will be the best way to show senior executives the value of supply chain diversity. All right. Tomorrow we will work on 1A3.